All right. Today is a special day. We have 818 brands in the house. Rami, I've known you for years.
Oh, yeah.
I've been looking forward to this interview.
Oh, yeah. We go back a long, long time.
We do. We're going to talk about some lighting, some truths, some fallacies. You were one of the first to bring LEDs into the marketplace. Spectrum King, I believe it was.
No, it was Stealth Grow LED, actually, which the one you carried exclusively for me.
That's right. We carried. That's right. That's right.
You believed in me since day one.
That's right.
You've always been a man of technology.
And then what? Spectrum King came out later on, or?
Yeah, Spectrum King came out later on. Stealth Grow was sold to Phototron Holdings, which, if you ever remember the whole stock market craze, was Phototron that became Grow Life. That all kind of sparked up because of the revenue that you helped generate, from Advanced Nutrients and the sales that we had on Stealth Grow LED. I think we did back then. It was like a couple $1 million in sales that year. That year it was like $2 to $3 million. Back then it was a big deal in LEDs. Yeah. And so that birthed, and I ended up selling it to that public company.
But hold up, there's some interesting things that you have to say about lighting. Let's talk about 818 brands first. How did it all get started? How did 818 become 818? And you guys are massive in Adelanto there.
We started, we're three really good friends that have known each other for a lot of years. David, who's my partner, I've known since also childhood. We've always known each other. He's actually my sister's, he's 2 years older than me, so we knew each other in high school, who each other was, because he was in my sister's class and I was in his sister's class, and so we always knew each other. Hey, what's up? What's up? That kind of environment. But a couple of years, I think towards end of high school, I got into flying model airplanes. Yeah,
really?
Yeah. I like the big giant scale, RC scale.
Those things are so cool. I used to go watch people fly those things.
They're really cool. And so there's this place out of Balboa, and I told his sister about it one day. We were at dinner. She's like, "Oh, my brother's been doing that for years. Like, you should go and meet up with him." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he actually called me. He's like, "Yo, I heard you got into the RC flying. Let's meet up." Yeah. And it was like, it's funny. It's like a bro love at first sight type thing. So we started going every day to the park to fly the RCs. We ended up moving in together and just became homies. And
how many of those planes did you crash before you became good?
Probably a good amount. I'd say probably a good amount of money spent. On there. But you know what? David was so good that if I caught myself into trouble, I'd literally have the remote in my hand and I'd just be like, "David, save the plane." You know what I mean?
I've seen the trainers where one guy's got a remote and the other guy's got the other remote.
I didn't even do that. I literally threw my remote in his hands because I didn't have the cable link to his remote. So I would just throw it at him and help. And he somehow just managed to just grab it with fingers like this. This is literally how he grabs it. And he's like, and just brings it down all slowly.
You should be one hell of a drone flyer right now.
He's actually a really good pilot too. So he flew privately, made it as a hobby. I think he also went and got commercial rating just to do it, just to cross it off his list.
Really?
So that's really shows you the type of drive the person has.
Yeah.
David's just always been a really good person. And then Yaniv is actually his wife's cousin, David's wife's cousin. Okay. So they've known each other for a lot of years, and naturally I also knew Yaniv as well. He and David really sparked up a lot of the early dispensaries. A lot of them actually that MedMen ended up buying, and a few other people ended up buying before MedMen became MedMen. Actually, they told me, they always tell me the story that Adam would always tell them, "Why don't you guys franchise all these stores?" Yeah. You know what I mean? And this is when Adam had his idea. And they're like, "Nah, we build them, we set them up, and we flip them." And so that was kind of the thing that they did. And then, of course, they sold a few of them to Adam, a few of them to other people. But David and Yaniv have been in the dispensary game since also the early 2006, 7, 8 days.
So you guys have dispensaries as well. So you're vertically integrated.
Yeah, right now we're vertically integrated. And so kind of fast forwarding, we were all doing our thing in the markets. I was very focused on my lighting side. So I still had to grow with research going on at the time. David and Yaniv had the grows in the dispensaries going on. Years, kind of fast forwarding to 2019, 20, I think it was 2019 or 20, that we got together. Yaniv's brother had a building that he wanted to build as a grow and then flip it. But because of the licensing, you couldn't just do that.
Okay.
And so he kind of said, okay, I can't just go sell the building right now. I need somebody to operate it. And so he called up David and Yaniv, said, hey, you guys want to run this? They're like, hey, let's bring somebody who's, you know, done the retail thing in the legal market. And then they decided to bring me on board. And so collectively, all three of us decided to run this building that we had out in the San Fernando Valley near Pacoima. And so that was like a 550 lighter. That's how 818 started. That was like the beginning of 818.
Very cool.
You know, and ever since then we've grown from the 550 lights to about 4,500 flower lights today.
Wait, and you're adding more though, I heard.
And yeah, we're continuously looking to expand. We're also looking to get into other markets,
Let's
locally,
talk about that.
internationally.
So nationally, so you want to build this 818 Brands is an international brand. That's where you're going.
That's where we want to go. That's essentially where we want to go. We see the value in being able to reach a lot of different distribution networks, being able to diversify different sales channels was what's going to allow us to survive in such a competitive market here in the States.
Yeah.
You know, having all those things that are going to be outside to offset us, those things will definitely help.
What do you think about the cannabis market right now today, and where do you think it's going?
You know, honestly, it's sad. It's unfortunately, I think it still might go further down. I mean, you have people, you know, and I hate to call out names. I don't, you know, everybody's got their own strengths, but like when you allow millions of square feet to be licensed,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You're doing exactly what I believe, and I don't know if I'm wrong about this. I believe the original state laws actually stated clauses to prevent companies for any company to become this big and to become a monopoly on the market.
Yeah.
And yet they allow it. So really the government's just fucking us here both ways. They're making it basically no punishment for cultivating illegally. So for licensed businesses like us that pay taxes and everything, it's just making it more hard.
And there's a lot of legal businesses that don't pay any taxes at all, and it's going out the back door.
There's a lot of that. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, you know, it is what it is. So
here's an interesting statistic. So we hired this guy named Bo Whitney. He's an economist, and he does studies for us. And in California, we produce 22 million pounds a year. Only 9 million pounds actually go to the marketplace. Total production of the U.S. market is 50 million pounds a year. That means 44% of all the cannabis that's being produced in America is being produced in California. Where the hell is it all going? You have any idea?
Yeah.
We know everywhere.
They don't want to stop that money from coming in. It's like literally, it's completely turning a blind eye. You know, it sucks. You know, I think they need to put a moratorium. I think they need to put a moratorium on giving out more licenses. When you talk about it from a national perspective too, you know, it's like we're only taxing. You know, you have the vehicle industry and everybody else trying to save energy, trying to conserve energy, and here we are in the cultivation, allowing all these licenses. You're just taxing our grid. You're taxing everything. Mm-hmm. There's no need to have all these different states produce. So like Oklahoma,
right?
Like even Oklahoma itself destroyed the market. I mean, if you took out Oklahoma alone, right, the market would stabilize more. Yeah. Literally, it would go up. It would go up a couple $100 for sure. Giving out 10,000 licenses, you know, and then have no regulation or oversight for so many years. Well, it's BS. You have a total population of what, 4 million people in fucking Oklahoma. How many people are in Oklahoma? Yeah. A couple million.
I don't know. Yeah.
How many of them smoke weed? Probably 100,000, 200,000. Oh. You don't need more than 5 farms to be able to take care of everybody.
Yeah.
And so again, the states really screwed everybody, and I think it's fucked up, but it is what it is.
What do you think about the whole hemp thing? Then okay, Germany treats it like a normal business and taxes it like cannabis like a normal business.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. There's the hemp thing. It's, you know, everybody's right until the wheels fall off.
And I see both sides. I see people that are in the legal cannabis side have now jumped in there, especially in the beverage space, and they're doing all kinds of things. Oh, yeah. And now you're seeing the states are attacking that and getting rid of the THCA. The hemp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, they found a good loophole, you know.
They did. I was surprised that it went on for so long. I said, all these guys, they're going to get busted. Yeah. And they didn't. Yeah. They just let this thing ride out. And now that industry is as big as the legal industry.
Yeah, it is. And essentially it's all legal product that's ending up over there. There's people
smoke shops.
Yeah, people with smoke shops, everything that are just doing that. It's crazy to me that but again, you know who's suffering the most from it, in my opinion, is the dispensaries. Because now people can just go to any smoke. Yeah. They can go to any smoke shop, pick up.
That's right.
Essentially, what is cannabis, right, and get it with no crazy tax attitude, no 30% tax.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of dispensaries are suffering from it. I think Texas just came out with a ban too.
They did.
But I think it's I think somebody told me that it's only to the distribution, but not to the end consumer, so the end consumer can still buy it.
Correct. Yeah.
So I mean, again, that's really politics, right? Like, say you're gonna do something, but then half step it and leave a hole so that it can still be, because it's money, because it's revenue.
So what do you think is gonna happen in Europe? Europe's probably about 5 years behind us, but American companies are moving in so fast that this was the last year of cannabis.
Now they're
going to move it up north
to Germany.
Something.
It's going up to Germany. That's where it's going to be next year. I just recently read this, by the way. Because I was just looking it up. If I was going to debate about going, and it's the last year there because the building is being torn down. The building is they're doing a whole new construction, so the building is not going to be available anymore, and so they've decided to relocate to Germany.
Cannabis is going to go to Germany.
It's going to Germany. So next year it'll be hosted in Germany. Which
I heard that it was going to go northern Spain, up in the Basque region.
It was on their website. It was on their website. Like when I looked it up, this was an announcement they made.
You got Mary Jane Berlin. It is now the largest cannabis show in the world.
Oh yeah,
bigger than MJ Biz. They had 2 pavilions last year. Now they have 5. 275,000 people are going to be going through there, and the tickets are sold out. Every booth space is sold out.
Man, I remember doing Cannabis and having the booth there and all that.
Yeah, we did it this year, and it was the last year, and
the logistics is always a nightmare.
Yeah,
you keep all your boot stuff over there already.
We have a warehouse there. We have manufacturing there. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was always a nightmare having with the lighting. Setting up the big booths with all the lights and get everything on a plane and dealing with all of that.
Luckily we got a guy named Chuck Riggs, and he is amazing. He's been doing our shows for as long as I can remember.
Dude, I still have pictures.
He's a master at it.
I still have pictures from our trade show days when we were doing it together.
Yep.
And there was one time, I think, where we wrapped like a Ferrari outside that booth. Remember, with all the LED lights, and you guys had the beautiful displays of them and everything. It was really, really cool.
Let's go back to this whole LED thing. What do you think about LED lighting, HPS versus LED? There's all this controversy going on. Some guys are running HPS, some guys are running LED. What's the truth about LEDs? Because you're an expert with LEDs.
Yeah. I think the industry has taken a turn that's I want to say just like a convenience factor. Okay. So everybody, just like in the THCA game, right, in the dispensary, everybody wants the cheapest flower that's got the highest percentage.
That's right.
Right, and so that same model essentially trickled down to lighting. I'll give you an example. The quality that goes into a lot of these lights today, so the mindset of the people producing these lights today is
they're in China.
They're in China.
And I heard there's like 4 big producers, and that's
it. And it's trickled. It's become 4 now. Yeah,
4. That's it.
From what it was.
Well,
it's trickled down to about 4 players, and that's it, because of their size. And you just can't compete with price because, again, everybody's so price conscious. So that being said, what do you get as a result for that, Mike, when you want to produce product and you decide to go the cheapest? What do you get? I don't have to tell you this.
That's right. It doesn't usually turn out.
You're my man. You go for quality, bro.
That's it. And that's quality.
That's something that you and I think, definitely have. It's one of our many things that we have in common. But I was always very big in quality, and so the LEDs that are used today, everybody's got thousands of LEDs on the light fixture. Yeah. Why? Because they're using like 1 cent, 2 cent freaking LEDs. It's just shitty LEDs.
And really, the diodes themselves are low quality? The diodes
themselves are generally low quality. Are 99.9% are going to be low quality. let's just say 90.
How do you know the difference between a high quality diode and a low quality diode?
So you can look it up, and then you can look it up, and it's what the substrate is actually made out of, what the actual LED is made of. So you'll have things that are just for, that are built a certain way because of cost to drive costs down.
Correct.
But when you look at other things, it would be more expensive because of the materials that they're made out of. And so, like an example, right? So you'll have some LEDs that are encapsulated in plastic.
Okay.
You'll have some that are not going to have plastic.
Why is that?
Just to drive down the cost.
Okay.
Just again, because they'll look at like residential lighting. Somebody that uses a light that's inside their house, they might typically use it for 1-2 hours a day on average. How often do you use a specific light fixture in your house? So they don't need to put so much money, right? If you want to buy a light bulb, what happened in the beginning when LED light bulbs came out? They were like $20, $60. They were expensive. Nobody wanted to spend $60 on a bulb. And so they had to figure out a way to drive the cost down on the LEDs. And so driving, bringing down the types of materials and downgrading that to lower quality stuff,
Didn't they used to be like on a sapphire board, and they went to a silicon board?
Silicon board, and now and it's not. It's also the package that board goes into.
Really?
Yeah. So the LED is not done just with the wafer board. From the wafer board, it goes into like an encapsulation or some sort of packaging that it goes into. And so all those materials will matter. And, I was always a guy when I built my lights to go for the higher end stuff than opposed to low stuff. Like our circuit boards back with Spectrum King, I used to have again, even till today, nobody's packaged so many watts into such a tight area. If people look at 818 Brand's videos or stuff like that, you might see some of our point source LED lights, which what I wanted to do was mimic a 1,000-watt bulb, which was concentrating the power source that it came from, down into the canopy, as opposed to having a bunch of bars. Because a bunch of bars, I have to now take that, the intense light source and spread it out to multiple sources. So what that does is it impacts my penetration factor. This comes down to why people need under canopy lights today.
Let's talk about that, because there's something that you talk about, and I had to look it up, and that is Lambertian reflective effect.
So I had a lighting engineer once explain it to me as a Lambertian effect, which essentially in more easier words to understand, even for myself, was focal point. It's like every LED, when you have light coming off of it, even when it has a certain angle lens, is going to pump more light right to the front of it. It's not going to be a perfectly... It's not going to be a perfect circle sphere. It's going to be where the center is always going to be more hot or higher of a cone of intensity, of a focus point. And so what happens is that the more you divide your light up, and this is what I was just saying about creating a point source, the more you spread that out, the less intense, the less distance it could travel. So that focus point changes and just divides itself into smaller ones, and now you don't have a lot of penetration down into your canopy, which is why you see people benefiting from under canopy lighting. Like if you compare my SK603s, which today the LED tech on it, the LED itself is like 5-6 years old, so it's like if you put new LEDs on it, it would even kill even more. But when you put that light up against a flat panel light today, you'll see that light actually penetrates all the way down to the media, as opposed to stopping halfway because it's not able to penetrate the canopy. And so having under canopy lights in today's market benefits you because of your top light being made so cheap that you're having to also add under canopy lighting. But if you had a properly built grow light up top, you wouldn't necessarily need any of that under canopy lighting.
Really? You don't need any
because you need to just have more intense LEDs that can actually penetrate the canopy. So even the Spectrum King.
So when you say more intense, what are you talking about? PPFD, like how much do you run?
PPFD would be a whole other that's a whole other discussion, which I really want to talk about.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll
talk about that. But just having if the last Spectrum King flat panel lights, if you looked at how many LEDs there were on them, there was probably like 60 of them on one bar, right? Whereas in today's market, if you look at every 4-foot bar fixture, there's probably like 1,000 or 300 or 400 LEDs on each bar.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. This is because they're, again, bringing the cost factor down on production of the LED, because using those higher intense LEDs would require two things. One, the LED would be more expensive. One, you'd have to use a circuit board that's much more thermally conductive.
So they just use more cheaper LEDs.
It's more, the cheaper the LEDs, the cheaper everything else can be behind it. And so, but if you make an intense LED, like the SK603s, the only way I was able to dissipate that amount of heat out of such a concentrated source was getting the most thermally conductive material available, right, on the market, coating that with like gold, using the best, copper material. Like I spent maybe...
You sound like a military contractor.
I'm telling you, like nobody, unless you were sending the circuit board to space or using it for some military device, there's nobody in the world that would spend this on lighting.
Really?
But at Spectrum King, I wanted to put the best product out.
Yeah.
That the LEDs, the circuit board, everything I chose was because of its quality, and what it was rated to do. So all my first generation LEDs, like I got nothing but compliments from people left and right, from customers who were engineers that said, dude, I even remember this one email that says, I could tell that when you manufactured this, you actually used the right head for every screw that you have on here, because they actually looked at every size screw that I had and to see whether there was any like indentations of using a tool that wasn't properly fit for it.
Wow.
So like just, we really proud of it. We it was cool. And I was doing it all here locally. So I was the only local USA LED grow light manufacturer.
Made in the USA.
California, to give credit to him, I think he was called California Light Works.
Okay.
I think that's what he was called. He used to be like across the street from me. So we started both right about the same time, but he was more towards like some horticultural stuff. And then he tried to adapt into the cannabis market. He also stayed in the generation where we started with the red and blue lights.
Right.
So he was still going on that for a long time. But when I made Spectrum King, it was after years of running HPS and LED side by side and saying like, hey, why is it that all this blue and red that they pitch this chlorophyll absorption chart? If you do remember that chlorophyll absorption chart that shows that everything happened in the red and blue.
That's right.
And so you would think that if you made a grow light in the red and blue spectrum, that would be the best grow light.
Oh. So the human eye only sees 1% of the sunlight. 99% is unseen to the human eye.
Oh yeah, we see.
But the plants, what are they seeing?
They see
that we don't know about yet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
far red came in, right? And that helped.
It helps. So the far red thing, right? So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, sure.
The far red thing for me is a farce.
Okay, why?
Okay, so
they say it goes all the way through the canopy.
So the red doesn't actually. The red doesn't penetrate through. You know what does penetrate through?
What?
Green light.
I remember reading something about that green light. So let's talk more about that.
Green light will actually penetrate. Green light actually will help other spectrums reach down the canopy.
Really?
So, but
what do you know what the frequency of that is? What the
of the green?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't remember off the top of my head. It's in the 500s, I believe. But
the 500s.
Yeah, but I have to just think 505 was like green was
really.
It's been a little bit, so like if somebody's seeing this out there, it's like, oh no, 500 is still orange.
Yeah, leave a comment by the way. Leave a comment below.
But yeah, the green. Actually, we also found that spider mites. Yeah. It was also we actually almost wrote a patent about this, but we figured that it would never be economical to do.
Yeah.
That if you take this certain spectrum of green, and I think it was 505 or 503 or something, it was some specific green spectrum. They fucking hate it. So we took like infested plants, and I'm talking about webs, thousands of spider mites, and turned on this light, and they just fucking scatter.
Really?
Yeah. So, but to put so much wattage of a specific spectrum just as a treatment for spider mites, you and I both know it's not economical to do.
Right.
But it was just really cool to see that from a lighting perspective, you can actually attack. You can actually attack plants or insects.
Yeah, that's amazing. One thing I'm surprised, I met this dude from Livermore Labs, the scientist, and I told him, I was in the cannabis space doing lights at the time. This is 20-some years ago. He goes, well, why don't you make a lenticular lens? I go, what the hell is that? He goes, okay, you've got a hot spot in the middle of your light. I go, yeah. He goes, there's a design pattern that you can put on that will diffuse that light out to other areas, and you will have a total even light diffusion. It's called a lenticular lens. No one's done that. And I think someone could easily do it with LEDs out there, and they should look into it. I think that if you want to get even lighting in a canopy, you got to use a lenticular lens. We'll do it.
So today, I think it's to give them credit, FOSI?
Yeah, FOS, yeah.
FOS lighting. Yeah. They decided to go that route. You know, one of my experiments as we were constructing lights throughout the years, like I've really tried, Mike, every construction method that you could think of on an LED grow light, and just try to find the most economical, what the most market would, bear and whatnot. And again, a lot of them worked. It's just the choice that we made at the time, and it was what it was. And I was also a company that started from my own dollars, so I didn't have like millions of dollars at the time. This is 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. I didn't have millions of dollars just to blow.
Like the MSOs.
Like a lot of the MSOs, there's somebody who just had a big blank check, to start. I didn't have that. So I was like the underdog too at the same time. And the lenses are great, right? They only have literally one trade-off. Today the materials are better that they don't discolor as much. But back then it was if you put too much intensity, there was the discoloration over time because of the materials available. Yeah. Today they might be better, so they might discolor less. And also the efficiency loss, right? So no matter what lens you throw on an LED, there's now going to be an efficiency drop. And I believe
there will be for sure.
But it's a trade-off, right? So it's like, hey, you know what? I'm willing to lose 8% more energy to achieve the result that I want to get.
I think it was 5 to 7%.
Today it might be,
and the thickness too. That has lots to do with it.
The thickness matters. Yeah. The design of the lens, and so somebody who had the money to go and have a lens company, right, actually manufacture something specifically for that use, right? It's a good chunk of change that you have to spend, but once you accomplish that, you're right. You could probably reduce that down to 5-7% instead of using something that's off the shelf that you'll lose 8 to 10% or something. Correct. But now, again, still the loss, still the added construction material and so forth. That's why some companies went to coating, to spray coating.
Really?
Instead of putting, so a lot of the lights that are out there today, they don't have a lens on them. What they do is they coat them, with an epoxy resin, so that way they stay waterproof, but they have essentially just a clear coat that's over them.
Okay.
Which again, also going to be like a 1% drop or a very tiny drop. As soon as you put anything over the LED, there's going to be some sort of drop, right? You're not going to gain from it.
What do you think about these tunable LED lights? Now they're talking about where you can change the spectrum and
marketing scheme.
Marketing scheme. Okay.
So okay. In general,
have you tested one?
Okay, so I'll say this. So yes, as a guy who's done research on all the different things with the plants, yes, different spectrums, you can get the plants to do different things. Like the more blue I kept my veg lights, I even grew with straight blue veg lights, just to see.
Yeah, you're curious.
Again, I had a room full of stalls, right? Like bathroom stalls. Like, so it would be a 4x4 foot stall. So it would be a warehouse full of them. So the same environment and the same strains and same everything, but the only thing that would be different were the spectrums of light. So I was able to do a lot of different spectral tests, at the same time to see how it affects the plants. And so like I learned that different spectrums, you can get the plants to be more squatty, more stretchy, internode spacing. So there's a lot of things you can get out of the light to do on certain plants and certain genetics. And so doing that, I learned, so the changing of spectrums, having that ability, cool. I'm not going to say it's not a cool feature to have. But if you really want to make a tunable light and tell me that it's going to be tunable in all spectrums, right, then you got to have so much extra power supply behind it. Because, so if you take, let's just use 500 watts, right? Okay. And you say every color runs 100 watts because, right, the 500 watts has to be distributed somehow. Right, so let's say we have 5 colors like red, blue, white, orange, fucking purple. Doesn't matter, right? And you have 100 watts to each one of them. I can't take 500 watts into just the white. I can't take 250 watts in just blue and red.
It won't handle it?
It won't handle it. So unless because the LED chips are not going to be able to go to 500 watts. That string of LEDs, there's no way in hell can just go all red. So when they make these tunable LED lights, there's already a set wattage per color, right? But you can't go over that. And so to me, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to give you a real tunable LED light, then what you need to have is, this is the first thing that we introduced actually with this one company. Geez, I'm already forgetting their name, but it was the central power supply, Artisan. Okay. Artisan is the name, where it's like a central power supply. So you could feed like 10,000 watts off of this one device, right? Wow. So like you can run as many watts per fixture. So let's say if I had that and there's 1,000 watts that goes to my light, but I need to have LEDs that are capable to take 1,000 watts and output that. So I need to have 1,000 watts worth of red, 1,000 watts worth of blue, 1,000 watts worth of green, and whatever color I choose. There's not a light to date that actually has that. It's bullshit. So every tunable light that's out there is great, nice, but you're only hurting yourself, because unless you have all the colors on, right? Now, let's say, okay, you have all the colors on, 500 watts is running, and I decide to turn down my blue. I now reduce the wattage output of my light. So my overall coverage, the intensity I'm putting out, has now decreased. Yeah. So unless you tell me that I have the ability to put whatever I drop into that color,
someone could build that light for sure.
You could, but it's going to be expensive. Oh. You're gonna spend, because essentially you have to build 5 lights into one.
There's a company called Valoja out of Finland that in the Conviron test chambers that we bought, those lights are $100,000 a piece.
So again,
but they're built for. They do have a tunable spectrum.
They might have the ability, because again.
No. I'm going to go home and start looking at this.
Now you know why it costs that much, right? Because they have to build whatever color they choose, and whatever wattage they choose. So if you have 1,000 watt,
but it's also for a plant test chamber. So and it can replicate any spectrum of light anywhere in the world. So I could take somewhere in Peru, and in 24 hours later, that room would have the exact same conditions as it did there and every day. Or you could go, oh, they had a drought 5 years ago. I wonder what that would be like on this strain, and you could replicate it.
No, having that again, having that ability is a cool feature, right? If you have unlimited budget.
Well, that's for research purposes, though.
Yeah, you do it for research purposes and all that, but as economically to put it into
hell no, no, it's not. But I'm wondering if they could. There's got to be a breakthrough sometime, somewhere. Do you think it's coming with LEDs, or you think HPS is going to be around for a lot longer?
I think that the next jump for LEDs is probably going to be the substrate material it's made out of.
Well, okay.
Right?
So what do you think is going to happen?
Let's say graphene, right?
Oh, graphene, yeah, sure.
The graphene becomes commercially in every one of our cell phones.
Yeah.
Then it's going to hit the lighting section, and then you won't have the aluminum. You won't have all that stuff because there's not going to be heat generated.
Do you ever think vape pens with graphene?
No,
I was looking into that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
With graphene, I haven't seen that.
So I was saying no one's brought it out. I was surprised that hasn't come out yet with graphene.
Regarding touching back, because you said about the deep red and how that's a thing.
Yeah, deep red, sure.
Okay, so this is my problem with deep red, right? And I did a couple of like research, kind of testing on this stuff back when I was heavy in the lighting. So if you look at a spectrum of a double-ended bulb, right, and you break down the spectrum and you go to 660 nanometers, which is the actual chip that all the companies today are using in their lights. Yeah. And you say, okay, how much of that does this bulb have? It's like, from a 1 to 10 scale, it's got like 2, 3. I'm just giving from range of scale, so you know the intensity level. It's like 3, maybe 2, 3. And then you go to all the LEDs today, right? And you look at that same nanometer spectrum and how much of it is there today. It's like 10. It's 10 out of 10. There's so much. The intensity of the red is as intense almost as the rest of the light itself, right? There's so much red saturation in every LED grow light today. Yeah. Why? Because PPFD meters, PAR, what it's all based on, and however you want to trail it back down to its core science, is those sensors that actually are measuring that, they are sensitive to 660 nanometers.
No way, really?
Yeah, that's their peak absorption. So
how are you gonna,
if I put a bunch of 660 nanometer, well, I'm gonna make this meter go off the fucking scale. So I could take a double-ended light. Yeah, that's 1,000 watts. Yeah, right. Put a PAR meter underneath it. Yeah, and then take a 100-watt light, 200-watt light, and put only 660 nanometers on it, and that meter is gonna fucking go crazy. And you want to tell me that if I take that 200 watt dead 660 nanometer bulb and put it over a 4x4 canopy, that it'll outgrow my double-ended bulb now?
No way.
Just because it's got a higher par? Hell fucking no. So par is really used as a marketing thing, because the more red you add, the more PPFD you're gonna have. But where's the fucking science that tells me that 660 nanometers alone is going to increase my yield or my production by X amount?
Now, when they do the 660, I know I've seen some lights that they turn off all the other LEDs, and they only will run those red ones for certain amounts of time. And I saw it in Israel, actually.
Yeah. So so when we did this, because we did this a little bit at Spectrum King too, I think it was 720 nanometers. So it was a little bit further red. It was like the far red, and it was to mimic the sunrise.
Yeah.
To get that little bit of light sunrise, which triggers the plant's waking process. It affects their stomatas and to wake up faster, so they start photosynthesizing faster. And so I think when we did the research, it was like you can get like 15, 30 minutes more photosynthesis on the plant by having that. And I think it was called Emerson effect. I might be mistaken, but I think it was called the Emerson effect.
Okay.
If you look it up, that it was that deep red, that far red.
That kind of woke the plants up.
15 minutes beforehand would actually woke them up faster.
Oh.
And then they would start photosynthesizing faster.
Because they think it's sunrise is coming.
They think sunrise is coming. Exactly, they're preparing for it. Exactly.
All right. What about the ones that do sunset? Because I've seen lights out there that mimic sunrise and they mimic sunset.
And I think it kind of goes just on the backwards scale, but I think you add more orange to it in order to get there. But yeah, those are real effects. Those are legit, you know. And it is something that we did, again, incorporate at one point to our lights. Back then, you have to also look at expense, too, because now you have to create a circuit board with another channel and string of LEDs. But yes, that's a real deal. Same thing with UV, right? You have a lot of companies out there pushing UV on their LEDs for finishing purposes. Well, I mean, we all remember the finishing bulbs, right? Remember the finishing bulbs that we used to buy, which were essentially aquarium bulbs at the hydroponic stores?
Yeah.
You know, back then, that's where they came from. And people discovered that by increasing the ultraviolet, you create a plant response, you know, that stresses the plant, but it creates more trichomes. And so people would then, at the last week, throw on the finishing bulb, you know, when the lights came on, and then get that response out of them. You don't need to have it. So in LED chips, the UV just degrades the substrate over time. So when you look at UV lifetime on LEDs, it just...
Yeah, they say like 100,000 hours or whatever.
No. With UVs, it's like 10,000 hours. Right?
Really?
For every LED is 100,000, UV is like 10,000. So you have to put a lot of them to make up for the loss over time. So it's expensive. They go out, and the cost of them, you're better off just getting an outdoor string light with UV bulbs, you know, reptile bulbs, putting that in your room. You'll get a really good result if you do that. If you take like just the regular, you know, Amazon string lights that's waterproof, and get reptile bulbs,
really,
and use that and for the plant it's systemic, so it just has to get hit with a little bit of UV. The UV doesn't have to be directly right over it, and so having like a string light running diagonally across your room and putting reptile bulbs and using that in your last week, you'll see incredible results from trichome. You know, if anybody ever wants to pick up that tip, it works.
Oh, great tip.
It does work. It does work, but you know. The lighting for me has definitely been
you think you'll ever get back into it?
You know what? Unfortunately, with where the commoditization has become, nobody wants the high grade LED stuff, unfortunately. But you know, it is, you know, it's, you know, I knew that eventually it would get commoditized. You know, we had a lot of interest in copycats. Yeah. You know, we had people that we almost sold to.
That's why we pulled out. We had the square wave ballast, digital ballast. Badass ballast and all that. Yeah. And China was just selling direct to stores. And I said, okay, this is not going to work.
Yeah. No, eventually. And listen, LEDs at the end of the day are much easier. So yeah, I had a full fab shop, the pick and place machines, the robots, the X-ray machines, the you know, the full lineup that you would need to really make LEDs. Whereas today, you could buy circuit boards pre-made, ready to go.
Really?
Just stick them on a piece of aluminum, and you got yourself a light. So it's so easy to make today that it's easy for every Joe Schmo to actually become an LED company. Whereas to become a lighting company, to manufacture a bulb, we know there was only one company in the United States, and that was Hortilux, right? That actually manufactured the actual bulb itself, right? And then you had Philips and all the guys overseas, and even then it's like 3 to 4 companies that actually manufacture a bulb. Because the environmental hazards, all that stuff, there's always so many companies actually produce it. You know, Hortilux was really something. It's sad that they went under.
What name was it? What's the name? Was Iwaski or something like this? Was it
Iwasaki Electric
Iwasaki,
of Japan.
That's what it was.
Iwasaki Electric of Japan.
Yeah. Those were the good old days. Wow.
They were like a 70-year-old, Japanese conglomerate and all that stuff.
They got into making bulbs for guys growing cannabis.
Dude, we were an inch from selling to them. Spectrum King almost
really?
Yeah. We literally had our contract, the whole night.
What happened?
Jeff Sessions rescinded the Cole memo, and Iwasaki Electric of Japan took that as a threat to the industry. So I don't know if you remember when Hortilux went from being tomatoes, all of a sudden they became kind of open-minded and started advertising cannabis. That's when we were in the discussion with them. And then Jeff Sessions goes and rescinds the Cole memo and threatens the entire industry. They took it straight. They were like, oh, shit, we got to get out of this.
What do you think is going to happen with Trump and this administration and legalization of medical cannabis? Because we heard he's pro-medical cannabis.
He's pro-medical cannabis, and he seems to be pro across the board with letting the states do what they want.
Yes.
So maybe he dismantles it on the federal level and says, hey, okay, we're dropping it from the federal level, but it's up to the states to enforce it. I don't see it high on his priority list.
What about banking?
Banking would
rescheduling.
Rescheduling.
280E, we could throw that out the window.
280E would go out the window. Listen, if those things happen, it's a great thing. But then now again, if it's completely off the drug schedule, right? How are you enforcing the guys that are making it illegally? Because now you just spurred those up more. You just made more of those.
We have a very well-educated, let's call it, traditional market now. We can make more things than we could ever imagine from before. Wow.
So if you know that you have not even a misdemeanor now, possible, like, hey, fuck it, I'm just going to grow. Why do I need to pay the permit fees and taxes and do all that?
So do you think the black market will just continue and continue and continue?
I think it'll just continue.
Because of the high taxation, I believe that it will.
I believe so too. And unless, again, and so it's a double-edged sword, right? Because we all come from that market. Everybody essentially comes from the traditional. You've been growing for more than 20 years. You came from the traditional method one way or another, and so I kind of feel like a stab in the back to myself, right? When I say that traditional market needs a more strict enforcement, and punishment. But then at the same time, it's like on the legal side, I can't thrive as a business when you have, 3 houses in my street that are growing, that are growing cannabis. It's like what the hell? So
they're stealing power. They're turning out pounds for $100 a pound.
All of that goes to it, and so it's very tough to always take one side. I've been fence lined about the situation, from a political standpoint or personal standpoint. It's a personal thing to me because I'm like, essentially by advocating that we should enforce more on traditional, it kind of goes against my roots. Well, but then I'm also trying to think of like evolving. And
you're evolving as a human. You're older now, a lot wiser, and you realize,
and you got to change with the times, and so
you have to adapt.
So you have to adapt, and so that's where I'm like, hey, what the hell? Like all this, you see these millions and millions of square feet being allowed.
Canada's got millions and millions and millions of Americans.
I'm talking about it. I'm talking about an hour away from here. You have those specific grow houses that are just so large that they alone could take care of the whole United States.
Like Glass House.
Yeah. I just want to, again, I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus, but like, seeing them advertise that they're about to open another 2 million square feet, it's a kick in the nuts. Right. That means that when that goes online, the entire local market is going to get fucking hit, and it's going to be dictated upon their prices. Now, if they go and put $1,000, hey, you know what, guys, I'm with you. Let's go open up that 2 million square feet. But that's not what's going to happen. Yeah. They want to grab the whole marketplace, traditional, legal, the whole thing.
They won't be able to do it. No one person can grab this entire market. It's massive.
You should see.
Well, when you look at the global picture,
yeah,
there's no effing way that someone at this point is going to dominate the market. At some point, 20 years from now, different story.
Yeah.
But not now. Not while we're alive. I don't see it happening.
Listen, with your mouth to God's ears, my friend.
So what do you think?
That's my biggest worry. But so we are expanding. We are looking to get a facility that has, like the Mississippi University has like DEA regulation.
They use advanced nutrients.
Consulting on this facility. It'll allow
Dr. Elsa Holy
export. Yeah, it'll allow exporting into other markets and delivering California.
And by the way, he has so many products that he has developed.
Oh yeah.
Like if you go into his facility, I was in there, and he's got a whole cabinet full of all kinds of products. Because originally the DEA said, you're going to be the one who is selling the different cannabinoid-based products for different kinds of ailments. It never happened. They didn't give it to him.
I've heard a couple of people have the DEA license, but they're not really doing anything with it. There's like one lady doing some ayahuasca retreat, one guy who's growing a personal hoop house, and nobody's really done anything with it. So there's a company that we're going to
there's a few more that are out there. They've issued. Elsa Holy was number one, and I don't know how many DEA licenses are out there now. Do you?
So I think there's 8.
8 of them?
I think there's 8 of them.
All right.
Last time that I was told.
So how are you going to expand? Where are you going to go? You're going to go, what do you have for overseas? What do you
right now I've partnered with a grow that's running some of our strains in Israel. That they're producing the 818 lineup and packaging our brand in Israel.
Congratulations.
Doing really well there. People really appreciate California for being the mecca of where good cannabis comes from. Being guys that grew up in the valley, the valley has always been known for great indoor. And so it kind of spreads, from those roots. We're looking to expand into more international markets. Kind of Europe, kind of going after Germany, Spain.
Everybody's seeing
England.
Germany, and that thing's going to get filled.
Germany's going to be the size of the United States.
That's going to get filled so fast,
it is.
And because they don't tax it,
it is
and treat it like a regular business. It's going to. They will be the supplier for probably most all of Europe.
Yeah, I just I'm wondering, how much more the United States is going to keep allowing licenses, and now.
Well, look, there's still more states to come.
Take in mind.
Think about when Texas goes legal.
Now here's the kicker, right? When it goes federal, let's say tomorrow, right? Like what are the situations? Let's say it goes federally legal tomorrow.
Yes.
Let's say they even say go ahead and export the weed, right? Because America wants the money.
By the way, they should be. That's why they should tax like a normal business, and we should be the exporter to the world.
Now here's the thing. If tomorrow, now I might help some people out here.
Good.
I might help some of the money guys here.
Good.
If you have a regular cannabis facility, right?
Well, okay, wait. Let's qualify. What does regular mean?
99.9% of the facilities out there.
Okay, all right.
If tomorrow you go federally legal and you think you can export to Germany or any place in Europe or Israel, whatever, you can't. You don't have the standards to qualify.
Yeah.
Your product does not meet your facility is not a GAP or your manufacturer is not a GMP.
Yeah.
You don't have the accreditations of a facility to even begin exporting. So for everybody who thinks that when the market goes federal, the world opens up to them, they obviously are not experienced in international.
Yeah, but there are GMP facilities here.
There are, but again, I said 99.9.
99.9.
I didn't say 100% because there's, and again, because the one we were looking to consult for, right? That's a GAP GMC facility.
Okay.
That's got the accreditations, to cultivate to GMP. Sorry, I said GMC. GMP for manufacturing to be able to export out and have it accepted. Now, even with those standards, some countries will require another specific SOP or protocol or certification to be adapted before it can be accepted to that country. Like Israel, for example, needs an additional IMC gap in GCAMCP or some shit like that to be able to actually import. So you can have the GAP, GMC, but you still need to get some others. So the fact that people think that if it goes federally legal, I can export tomorrow, that's
fallacy.
That's a complete fallacy. It's like, wake up, like actually do your research and go and visit what it takes to do this. And that's where the game changes. Like building these GMP, and GAP facilities, like I've walked a lot of them in Israel, and like you are not allowed to have more than a 5% variance in CFM, right, in your entire room. Otherwise, your room doesn't qualify. Like the amount of hardware, the overbuild in comparison to
you need to keep that environment
to what our standards are. Like we, growers here will overbuild by like 20-30%. These guys overbuild by like 100%.
And the problem is their humidity runs a little bit high. The room is a little bit hotter because they don't have enough cooling and dehumidification.
This place, every GAP facility, like the precision is just insane, and it's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool because as a grower, that's like the ultimate, right? If
we have ACT guys now that have built like. I bet you between them all, they built over 100 GMP facilities.
Yes, and you know how different that is.
It is very different.
It's very, very different. And so, look, I just hope that the market gets to a point where we can cross-border sales, right, where they stop issuing so many licenses, not just from a, cannabis production standpoint, but also when you look at what's good for, our environment and what's good for the people, right? It's not to continue to build more grower operations and tax on, the grid as much. If you allowed cross-border sales today, and I believe that the market would stabilize so much because so much can be done across and stop giving grow licenses, that the market would really just kind of, stabilize and become better.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably if I wanted the ultimate situation, it would be that we can all cross-border sales, let there be a 2-3% tax, whatever there needs to be, as long as it's
reasonable.
Obviously reasonable. And that I think would stop giving out licenses. That I think would stabilize our market tremendously. People would stop looking to export weed out of the United States because we know people that do that till today. It's like it's insane how much America produces, and it just outputs it into the world.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
We're the largest producer of cannabis in the world.
Yeah,
United
it is.
States.
What
do you think about Colombia and what's going on in Africa and some of these other places producing cannabis at 4 cents a gram outdoors?
Again, right? So like from a biomass perspective, right? Biomass is going to become in abundance, right? So, but again, you can't. So for the United States, all that Colombia weed does me nothing. Right, because I can't import that.
Right.
So it's really how it impacts the.
So you have to go down there, build a GMP facility, and then
again, and even then, it's got to be a GMP facility and all that good stuff. So that being said, I don't think it's affecting us. Definitely, if the United States one day becomes an open market to the world, we're just falling behind. We're just behind.
Yeah.
We're way, way, way behind. And so, the rest of the world is obviously moving forward, building these GMP facilities, so Colombia, South Africa. But just like the lighting, it's like what is your dynamic going into it? Is it, let me make the cheapest product for the highest margin, right? Or am I going after making high quality product, and I'm going after high quality customers?
That's us. We always want the top 30%. That's all we're looking for.
So it really, like again, you go out to these facilities out in the world, and it's like, is it indoor quality? Is it actually GAP quality? Is it this? What is the standard, and what is the thought process going in? Because, like you use the word glasshouse, right? Glasshouse is out there to make the weed cost as less as possible, right? So they can charge, for whatever they want with the market, and so. It's not going in and saying, hey, I want to make the best fucking weed possible.
I believe that the cigarette companies are going to come out with cannabis vape pens, and you're going to see massive grows outdoors, and they're just going to make
the biomass.
Distillate out of it. That's it. And put them in the vape pens and sell them like crazy.
So that means that the cigarette companies are not going to be producing in the United States because of the GMP issues, right? So
I've heard rumors about other countries and them being in these countries already, and you're right, they're foreign countries.
No, but you're right though. If it does drop, let's say it does drop federally, then that would allow them to then make farms here in the States.
Yes.
Right, and then there is no standard essentially they could sell in our local market. Yeah, that could definitely happen, and that would suck because then that takes like regulation. Like look with THCA, as much as like, hey, kudos to them for running it till the wheels fall off. You know, I respect everybody that got into it. I specifically did not decide to jump on.
I was at the Champ show and I just looked at it all and I go,
see how crazy it is?
I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm talking to some guy who goes, oh yeah, we're doing $50 million a year. We're just crushing it.
Yeah. I'm just like, what?
What?
Like,
yeah.
It's just
like,
but
I think they're going to crack down on it.
My biggest concern is like the vitamin E acetate thing again.
Oh my God!
Right, like
suffocating lungs with people. Yeah.
Well, so like and people didn't. How long did it take people to realize that it's not in cannabis vape? I think people still today think that in cannabis vape pens there was vitamin E acetate, and it's just like there was never, nobody. It didn't exist in like the cannabis industry.
No.
You know, people didn't really use that. That was all in the nicotine, and it was all in those vapes, and there was no regulatory oversight, and so like with this whole THCA thing. Again, kudos to everybody that's you know succeeding from it, right? You know, run it till the wheels fall off. But it's there's no regulatory essentially. So like you're hurting people at the same time. There's for sure people getting hurt with bad product out there that they should not be ingesting.
A lot of pesticides on there. Who knows what the heck people put on it?
Mildew, whatever. There's a lot of that, and so you're only hurting the name.
How much of that do you think is in dispensaries that slipping by with these testing protocols that you can pay people underneath the table and all this? Because I love going to a dispensary because it makes me feel safe about the product I'm using. But yet at the same time, I understand there's a lot of shenanigans going on with testing labs.
Listen, yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that I've heard from testing laboratories.
Oh yeah,
there's definitely, you know, from the market I've heard there's shenanigans, but I've always kind of felt safe about going to a dispensary and seeing the product. I always look at the dates. I try to go with companies that are reputable that I've heard before.
Mm-hmm.
I think the vapes are the biggest issue, right? Because a lot of what I did find is that when I had Tikkun Olam, the Israeli company, the medical company.
Yeah, sure.
That was amazing, dude. That really sucks that the California market just didn't allow it to exist. Like, cause.
And I went in there and the lab that you guys had there.
It's amazing, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's pharmaceutical grade, like.
Yeah.
We
kind of we built the structure
it's
to
still
be
there?
able to be. Yeah, it's still running. It's still running, but it's just dealing with more, you know, traditional strains and everything else. We're not. It's getting ready to start the brand up again, very slowly. It's just, here's the thing. When I get, same thing with the lighting.
It's amazing what you guys can do there and what you do and what you can produce.
Listen, the impact we had on people. Listen, Mike, being able to give parents the product that was like for autism.
Yeah. Right.
That was geared toward, like, I had a 92% success rate on 2 clinical trials. Right. Yeah. It was amazing. And seeing kids being able to have, you know, easier day-to-day, you know, how I should say, chores or obstacles that they used to have to struggle with that are now much easier to them. It's amazing. There's one specific one where it was a 7-year-old who never spoke a word in his life. It was nonverbal, who started to speak after a couple of days and told his mom, "I love you, Mom," and this and that.
Really?
Really, like, it's amazing. You know?
My nephew has autism.
Does he?
Yeah. And you were kind enough to give some samples to us, and we gave it to him.
I remember.
And now we've got him doing. That's right, you remember that. We've got him doing CBD, and he can say full sentences now where he couldn't. Yeah. And of course, diet's important too. What they eat.
Absolutely, definitely important. And I mean, like, it's definitely that was an amazing product. I've seen it help people on a multitude of things.
And you name the products after the patients. Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, the person that founded the company, he went through a lot of obstacles in Israel. Tikkun Olam is actually the world's first cannabis company. So in year 2000, find me a company that was actually licensed to produce and dispense cannabis. I
remember when that happened.
There wasn't. You know, we had our you know, patient caregiver, you know, stuff over here, but that's not a license to produce on a large scale. So they were really kind of the first in the world over there. I mean, then you obviously have Raphael Meshulam, who found THC.
That's right.
Ruth Galili, who founded CBD, and then I think it was Juliet Howlett or something. She was here, I think in Stanford. She found the endocannabinoid system, and I think the story with that was there was like some congressman who like smoked, whose son smoked weed, and he went to her to find out if his kid, roasted his brain, and that's where she discovered the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, they did. And by the way, they discovered a study that says that cannabis does not cause cognitive decline. In use.
Yeah, and it's so with them, they were really like the godfathers. If you look at Raphael,
they were.
They were the three really kind of our godfathers, and in Israel they went and did about 16 different clinical research studies. Some were like double-blind placebo. Autism, of course, you can't measure that, so that's an observational study. They did animal studies. They did all kinds of stuff. And, the thing is here, it's, again, just the same thing with the lighting. If you're going to put in so much money into something and the market can't bear it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Then that's gonna be a problem trying to sell it. So when I had a tincture, which, again, because of just what we put into it, cost this much no matter what we did, and you have another bottle at the dispensary that's 30-40% of the price of that,
people don't understand.
People don't understand it, and so it was the same thing again with the LEDs. With this, it's like almost anything in life when you put so much quality in, and I'm sure that even with advanced nutrients, you're a premium product, and so you struggle sometimes having to compete against the guys that are making nutrients out of like dog shit. And it's like, you're like, dude, how can you guys even think about using this?
They got a 55-gallon drum in their garage, and they're mixing with paddles.
So it's.
I'm not bullshit. People have no idea.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So like when you put out quality and you see that, it's just definitely is mind-boggling. But hopefully the industry stabilizes a little bit. I mean, I'm hoping for good things, but this seeing all this overproduction is just I mean now. You get people in New York telling you, oh, yeah, now pounds cows, New York went from like $2,400, $2,500 just 6 months ago down to $1,000. Now you can get weed there on the local market.
The national average is $960 or something right now.
It's completely dropped across. And come on, that should say stop allowing more licenses. And I'll even say that about myself. Don't give me another license to produce. I'll forfeit the next building that I'm going to expand to. Stop giving away licenses out there. But the fact of the matter is that they're not, and so you just got to become competitive and be able to,
What do you think about Florida? What's going on in Florida?
Florida, I feel, has done it more right, if you would. They've kind of kept a tight leash on people who grow illegally. They try to keep a tight leash on any importing, on anything. They've tried to keep a tight leash on that state. So medically, they've done really well. Tikkun Olam actually does really well in Florida. It's sold via Vitacan. Vitacan sells Tikkun Olam products in Florida.
Really?
They're doing really well with it.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Yeah. And again, the market can bear paying $50, $60 for a tincture. You know what I mean? For a premium medical tincture. But over here in the market, when you have 1,000 companies selling tinctures in the $25 to $40 range, you cannot.
Do you think as time goes on, people are going to get more educated and more sophisticated about what's in the bottle, what kind of cannabinoids, and what it does?
I hope so.
There's a big education that needs to get
It's a huge education, dude. When we were out there selling the Tikkun Olam products, I was going with like medical pamphlets, trying to teach bud tenders how to sell a medical product, and it was painful.
Oh, really?
It was painful.
Oh.
We try to make the quickest cheat sheets, easy. If somebody says, oh, they're complaining about this, give them this. It's like we try to make it as easy as possible. And by God, it was just so hard. I hope people learn. We were also talking about like the testing. One thing that I could tell you about vape pens that we did a test with Lam is that the terpenes are very acidic. And depending on what the hardware is being used,
they're a solvent. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
And so therefore they're going to start breaking things down. And so we've learned that when you go and test a vape pen today, it's fine, right? Go test all the vape pens on the market right now. They're on the shelf for 3 months plus.
Oh yeah.
And tell me if they pass or don't pass.
They usually have high amounts of lead for a while. I don't know.
They'll have a higher amount.
They're doing ceramic now.
So again, I'm saying some companies have figured out.
Oh really? And some haven't.
And some don't.
Wow.
Listen, as long as it tests clean right now, c'est la vie, right? Who's checking? It's not like the DCC requires.
So be careful with a vape pen. Make sure it's ceramic.
Yeah. Now go back to GMP standards, right? They require age testing. So they require you, when you come out with a product, you got to have age test. So before you can even come up with a product, and again, this kind of sucks because it slows down development, but at the same time, it confirms the safety. And when you do a degradation test of like a year, so you test the pen every month for a whole year, and you have that data, then you could say, okay, this is when it's really not good. So when you really want to like do things right and everything, the market still has a lot of issues, you know, especially when you look at people that have done it right, you know. But yeah, there's still a lot to learn, I think, in this industry. You know, people talk about the Department of Agriculture being meshed in with the cannabis market. People think about, you know, the hemp is going to get meshed in with the market. I don't know how much Elon really has influence over Trump, and if something's really going to change during the Trump administration. You know, I think the guy's got so many battles. It might be something you might see at the end of his, you know, towards the end.
He's got a lot of issues to handle right now.
He's got a lot of
Cannabis
issues
is probably
I really don't
down
think it's
on the list.
Radar, yeah.
But if they just do one or two things, you know, they would help us out a lot.
Listen, he is the capable guy to say, fuck it. All right, guys. DA's, I'm giving the presidential order. You know, he's definitely capable of that shit. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I know that he's because of opioid use with the veterans.
Yeah.
And he knows that cannabis gets him off the opioids. And he's positive. He likes that.
Oh, yeah, dude. I had a lot of PTSD patients from Israel that came over and everything else like that from the October 7th. People that were actually there that time. The pictures and videos.
So that was a tough time. And your country's still going through a tough time.
Yeah, it's a very tough time. And I really hope you know what? It just sucks because, like, can you just, you know, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson, he actually said this, like, people think that like that aliens are like watching us. He's like, can you imagine that if aliens are watching us as a civilization?
Oh no.
They would say, how barbaric are we? Like, until we're a civilization that is unified as one.
There's 144 conflicts going on in the world right now, and they only focus on our eyes.
They focus on the politics. It's amazing. It's sad to see, and you're right about that. There's a lot of murder and genocide happening all over the world. And it's sad because the world is big enough. The world is prosperous enough.
You know, they did a study. They said to house every homeless person in America and feed every hungry American is $64 billion a year. And
they spent more than that just on this homeless thing here in LA.
$24 billion. And where to go? There's a big investigation going on right now.
It sucks. It's very sad, the corruption. And I say that everywhere. Like, even every country's got its political issues. Like, there's very few countries I think that don't. I mean, you know, it's
Switzerland seems to be doing all right.
Switzerland, Finland. You know, I think I just saw Belgium, like the safest places or happiest places to live or something like that. And like California was like, or United States was like down at like 25.
Even Iceland. I mean, like,
Iceland,
it's got the occasional volcanoes.
But it's sometimes you wonder, man. You wonder like what's going to happen in this place. Because listen, California is not what it was when my parents immigrated us here in the early 90s. Yeah. We came right after the Gulf War, you know. So it was like Scud missiles overhead exploding and shaking your house. And I like remember walking with a gas mask and a lunchbox to school. Like that's how we'd go to school in first grade.
Really?
Yeah.
So people don't realize that. So you had a gas mask and a lunchbox going to school.
Yeah, that's what you'd go to school with.
People don't understand the amount of stress the Israeli people live through. Sure, you got the Iron Dome and it's like magic. No, occasionally rockets get through. You can't. It's not 100%.
You know the population was against that. The population of Israel was majority against the Iron Dome system, but like the government. This, again, if anybody knows different, by all means. But this is again as a citizen of Israel and having family, I've always heard that the people were against it and the government did it anyway. And like people are like, oh, thank fucking God that like they have that Iron Dome system.
1,000 of them
Israel wouldn't exist right now if they didn't have the Iron Dome system.
Correct.
It would already be wiped out.
Yeah.
So the guys that put that together just said, hey, fuck what they think.
I mean, you get a viewpoint being here in America, and then when I went over to Israel, 3 times to do business, and what I saw, the tour that they took me on, then I understood. And it's not until you go there you can't understand what's going on.
Yeah, like it's you can't like you literally live around people, everybody that just wants to annihilate you.
Yeah.
It's like
you got 6 enemies.
And it's not everybody. Listen, like I have Palestinian friends. I have I'm half Arabic. I'm half Iraqi. My mom was born in Baghdad.
Oh, great.
Okay, so my mom was born in Baghdad. My dad was born in Israel, but my grandfather was born in Hungary. So we're like Eastern European, Middle Eastern, you know, like we got, like me personally, so like I got a whole mesh. So like there's not bad people. People don't realize that there's Palestinians that go to work in Israel and Israelis that go to work in Gaza every day.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, you know what I mean? But there is, unfortunately, you know, a radical portion, you know what I mean? And you know what? Yeah. There's a radical side almost to every culture, right? Here it's like Absolutely. White supremacy. In one country it's this. In Israel you have you know, the ultra orthodox that are like fucking crazy.
And like you guys have to watch it because
the left and right over there in Israel. There's like the ultra orthodox guys and the people that are not, and it's just like a fucking clash all the time.
Yeah.
So it's sad that again, like all this politics, right? And like the world can be in such a
Just smoke cannabis, everybody. Relax.
Yeah, right.
Chill.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
I think the Olympics was my first cannabis show that I've ever seen a fight go down. And apparently it was all over Instagram. It went viral. And it was some guy owed somebody money in Olympics. That was like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
On March 1st.
Okay.
Right here in LA. I'm surprised you guys. Well, it was.
No, I heard about some kind of Olympic thing.
Yeah.
Isaiah told me about it.
So we ended up going to it. It was a good show.
Okay.
Very good turnout. Lots of people. But there was actually a fight that broke out.
I've never seen a fight at
Cannabis Cup, right?
That's not true. I had a party once in San Francisco, and it just this was when the boards were up like what was it? Overgrow and the THC Farmer or whatever it was. These boards were up, and when they got into the party, the other guy said, "Oh yeah, I'm so and so on the board." And the other guy goes, "Oh, I'm so-and-so. You're the one who said that about me?" And they started just beating the shit out of each other. And I had 5 or 6 fights going on. They came in and they closed the party down because it was just out of hand.
They must not have smoked right before.
Well,
or at least or at least the aggressor.
Yeah, usually they're not, but you know.
It's very, you know,
they had, people were anonymous and saying things behind the typewriter. Now all of a sudden you're not anonymous, you're face to face with.
Oh yeah, people are different.
Your accuser, and then,
you know, it's kind of like people
went a little sideways that day.
It's kind of like people that flick you off in the car or something like that because they're like mad about your driving. Then like you roll down and try to like talk to them. You know what? It's funny. I actually had this situation, dude. Like I'm driving with my daughter.
Yeah.
Right? I'm driving my daughter in the car, and like there's this guy that like, you know, I guess wasn't happy with my driving or something because I pulled up behind him, and I guess he felt that I was too close to him.
Well,
whatever, you know, I have an F-250, so it's big.
Yeah.
Maybe he felt that I was too close to him, and the guy's like, you know, throwing like, you know, hand gestures from behind and flicking me off and everything else, and I'm just like, you know, I got my 3-year-old in the car. It's morning. I'm chilling. I don't, you know, I ain't even trying to start my day like this.
That's right.
You know, and so then he comes up to me. And he starts, you know, young, you fucking coward, you piece of shit, you're a fucking coward, da, 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 da. And I see that he's got a young kid right next to him. Yeah. And he's got like maybe a 10-year-old next to him, a 9-10-year-old next to him. I'm just like, man.
That's like, not a very good example.
That's such a bad example. And I'm like, I didn't even do anything to this guy. I'm like behind him, maybe. Like the only thing I can think of is that he might have thought that I was too close, you know, maybe.
Who knows?
And so I'm literally like trying to talk to like.
And by the way, it wasn't you. It was something else that happened to him prior in the day or whatever, right? Something. Yeah, sure.
And so like I go and I try to talk, and like I'm trying to pull up to him, try to talk to him, but he's just yelling obscenities. So I'm like, man, you know. And I was like, I gotta like try to talk this guy down. Like, look how he's talking next to this kid. I thought, you know, maybe let me try to do like that good Samaritan thing that. So like I follow him for a second, and then he pulls up to like Pierce College, right? He pulls into Pierce College and pulls into the sheriff's station. And I'm like, okay, so much for the whole coward part. You know what I mean? Like, okay. So I'm like, okay, do I really want to go through this like hassle right now? You know what I mean? Because I know this is about to turn into a hassle, or do I just drive away? But I was like so pressed to like want to like bring this guy down because I felt like, wow, like
you did it though. That's great.
You know? Well, so. But he gets out of the car, runs into the sheriff's station, he's running to the sheriff's station, and then 2 cops come running out with him. Yeah. And I'm like, oh God, what did he tell them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Who knows?
And so now I have to like be on the defense here, right? So like I go and I talk to the officers, and I literally explain to them the whole situation. And it was just sad that the sheriff, like literally, like the sheriff was one of them was like really cool. The female one, unfortunately, I gave up filing a complaint about her, but like she was like the aggressor, like, oh, you're standing right here. Until I tell you to leave and blah blah. I'm like, lady, I'm here on voluntarily. Like I don't, have to be here. You know, I have my daughter in the car and all. You know, like I don't need to be here, lady. But anyway, the gentleman, the sheriff gentleman, it was really cool. And after the whole ordeal, and I tried to tell him what happened, he's just like, dude, you know, I get what you're trying to do, but he's like, the world is just so fucked up that it's just like, just don't think that you're doing people any good, and like don't try to help people, and then I'm like, man, so now like the narrative of your sheriff, right, is to don't try to help people. That what he's preaching to society is don't help people. Like, do you understand how fucked up this whole thing is?
Well, there's a lot of stress on a lot of people because the economy, the wars, all the uncertainty, and people are losing their shit. People
are losing their shit left and right, and it was sad. It was sad to see that, but I was just like, the world just
it's sad to see it.
We need some Finland and Switzerland up in this bitch. Like that's for sure.
There's a book, Never Split the Difference. You should read that book.
Never Split the Difference.
It talks about how to de-escalate people because he was an FBI negotiator for hostages. You know, and how
I'll tell you, I really try to de-escalate this guy. And
you can. There's ways of doing it, and that book will help you a lot. Just not because it's you. Every human should read that book because there's ways of de-escalating people.
It was unfortunate, but I even like at one point I caught the kid alone.
You tried to do the right thing.
I tried to do the right thing. Yeah. I told the kid when he was alone for a second, I was like, hey, look, I don't know who this guy is to you, but the way he's acting, this is not right. Like, you know what I mean? But it was fucked up, but. You know, listen, today we just got to keep driving, keep doing our good stuff.
Yeah.
I brought you actually something I wanted to show you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what are all the products? This is great that you brought them. So let's see them.
So
first of all, what the hell is this?
Okay,
this big thing. What is that?
All right, so I wanted to create something. You know, everybody drinks like a piece of like an alcohol bottle or whatever, like a 1942 tequila or some whatever, like whatever alcohol that's a nice bottle, and even when they finish it, they'll keep it as a decor piece at their house, right?
That's a hologram.
On your bar, you'll have it's a lenticular.
When
you said that word, I was like, okay, he's gonna really appreciate that.
I will. Okay.
I wanted to create, you know, so like a lot of alcohol bottles that are out there that are empty that people keep on their bars, a decor piece. I was like, well, there's nothing like that for cannabis,
right?
So I was like, I got to create something like that. And so, you know, the first thing was obviously like the packaging and what is it going to look like. Then there was going to be like the inside of it. So this particular piece.
See it.
You know, so I don't know how much the camera can see it, but it's a lenticular.
There's one right there, right straight ahead.
It's a lenticular that basically changes image. You know, there's 3 images built into one.
Interesting.
And so
what's on the inside?
It's a very fancy box, soft touch, all this stuff. It's got this, limit. Hold on. I'm gonna break it out. I gotta do the salesman thing here, Mike. I gotta do the pitch.
All right.
So the back here has got the QR code, the limited edition number, how many units, and then the COA certificate of the product inside. Now, what's inside? You ask, right? So I was like, okay, well, what do I put? Just weed inside and call it, call it good weed, and that's it. As a grower, and you know the feeling of walking into your grow and picking the nicest, sexiest plant, it's like, oh,
not for sale.
Not for sale. That was mine, and having that experience of breaking down your hard work, smoking it and enjoying it. And so what we did here is I actually go in the room myself, pick the nicest tops I can. Now, my rooms are pretty large. I have, anywhere between like 2,000 to 3,000 plants in a room. I think our smallest room is like 1,500. So out of that, I can choose 200-300 that'll be, okay, these are sexy tops. And then what I do is I actually put the whole top into a jar.
I was hoping that's what this is going to be.
Yeah. The whole
cola.
The whole top cola of the plant is essentially in it. It's about an ounce.
Look at that. The whole cola is in there, and it's 1 ounce?
It's 1 ounce of flour, exactly. It's 1 ounce of flour, and that's the thing. You have to pick like the plants that'll actually give you that in dry weight, too, so they're pretty chunky when they're fresh.
Yeah.
And then a drawer here where I basically put a grinder, rolling papers, there's a rolling tray.
Everything you need.
And everything you need to have that breakdown experience. So it's like a great like party piece, kind of like that great piece to take to like a poker game or a birthday or something, or just to gift it to somebody. So I've been working on this for a little while.
This is a great idea.
It's something that I'm getting ready to launch right now. That we have quite an amount of followers right now for the first drop. We're about to drop it.
What are you gonna drop?
So I think I might go with our gas face, which is that's the Facement's Biscotti strain, which I have here too in the jar.
All right.
Which honestly I've I have yet to find a stronger weed than this, Mike. Like,
really? Well, put me to sleep?
Dude, if you're not asleep within 30 minutes, like, you know. It's incredible.
Yes.
It's an incredible smell.
Definitely going to want some samples before you go.
Yeah, don't worry. You can have that jar, Mike.
No way.
You can have that jar. You know what I mean?
Very cool.
Like, I was told that you need something heavy for the sleep.
You do, I do.
I don't fuck with that during the day.
None
of my friends fuck with that during the day.
I don't smoke during the day. Only at night.
No, even if you did. Like again, I smoke weed all day, every day. Like,
okay.
I'm just that guy.
Okay, no problem.
I can function, and I have energy that pours out of me. But that you can't. You're just straight couch lock. You can't function.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? It's straight to go to bed. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, our grape gas is another really, really nice one. I love the terpene on this. I didn't trim that one 100% because I just needed to grab something. But our grape gas is something that I really like as well.
Nice.
It's a really, really good nose. And it's a good nose.
Well, very different. Yeah. Unique.
And the old school
legend. What do you call this? Grape gas?
Grape gas. It's a blueberry headband crossed with...
Oh, blueberry. DJ Short.
Yeah, blueberry headband and
so this is a very unique smell.
Well, you should know that one.
Haze? No.
Close? Jack.
That's sativa.
That's sativa.
Yeah. I love sativa.
I love that during the...
That's what I would smoke during the day, like a weekend.
During the smoke all day. My garlic cane and grape gas, I smoke a lot during the day. They're like to me, they're as strong as gas face, but they just don't have that takedown at the end. So I can definitely, I can resonate with those. The gas face at night though, and it's 99.
Really?
Yeah, you can keep that jar, brother. That's for you. And you can keep the tops piece here in your office if you like.
Really?
Yeah. I got a couple of those prototypes.
Yeah, I got to invite you more often.
I got it. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. We're going to keep killing it. Look, we're like in 160 stores today.
So you're in 160 dispensaries.
160 dispensaries. We have 2 dispensaries that are ours. Yeah. One is in Palm Springs. It's 818, branded really beautiful. It's a gorgeous spot right by the airport. Give killer deals over there. Okay. For those that are in that area.
So how do people find 818 brands?
So weed maps on our website. On our website, there's like a locations tab where they could see where we're sold.
Perfect.
818brands.com. You can also follow us Instagram 818 Los Angeles. We have weed maps as well. If you search 818 brands on weed maps, you can also find us and where we're located there. Right. And delivery services as well. We have another store that's called The Weeds. Over in Studio City. Okay. It's on Ventura Boulevard, right where Universal Studios, where that area is. So it's right there. Really cool spot as well. Again, direct from the cultivation, fresh flower. You know, I pride ourselves on like never packaging stuff that's old, stuff that's only fresh, only stuff that I would smoke. Yeah. Do I even put into our retail? If I'm like, I don't like this run, I'm not just gonna push it onto retail. I'm just gonna like put it aside, sell it to distribute it to other brands that want mids and lows, and do it that. But when as long as we're keeping it, we're always gonna put the premium out there. But we look forward to just doing more, more good in the industry. Yeah,
Rami, 818 Brands. It was great having you here today. Look forward to some more conversation.
I look forward to continue working with you, Mike. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right, very good.